vlog entry is just a little bit different because I'm doing a story time. Now, I was on Facebook and I belong to several groups that I just like to chat in, and there was a question that was posed that got me to kind of thinking. And the question is, it was a very detailed question, but basically, there's a young man in a family whose daddy is not who he thinks it is, and so this particular family member knows that and wants to have a conversation with the mom. I don't know for what purposes, but I guess maybe to see where her head is and why she hasn't told this young man that his daddy ain't who he thinks it is. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about my experience with something similar, and then I'll give the rest of my commentary at the end. So here we go. When I was a little girl, my grandparents were founding members of a particular Baptist church, and we'd been involved with this congregation my entire life. So having said that, everybody in the church generally knew not only who my grandparents were, but who my mom was and who I was by default. And so, it was always kind of like, oh, that's Mr. and Mrs. Walker's granddaughter, or, that's Mr. and Mrs. Walker's daughter, referring to my mom. So that was just kind of how it was. And I grew up quite happily under that kind of system because it felt like a family. Now, fast forward to when I was about 9, something like that. I was at Vacation Bible School, and for all y'all who understand and know, Vacation Bible School is, the time in the summer where little children have to go and read these little pamphlets, and they get bologna sandwiches, and they learn about Jesus. And it is a great time had by all. I have fond memories of my VBS days, and I kind of wish that they still were doing it because I would have made my children go, but whatever. Anyway, so I was at Vacation Bible School this one particular time, and I was kind of hanging out afterwards. I didn't walk home immediately, and there was one of the, I'll just refer to her as the elderly women of the church. And she saw me, and she came up to me, she's like, hey, Lisa, how are you, blah, blah, blah. And I said, hi, Mrs. So-and-so, yada, yada, yada. So we having this conversation, and all of a sudden, she breaks out and says, I knew your grandmother. And I went, Lillian Walker. And she said, no, your grandmother. And I'm looking at this woman like she's crazy. Now, you got to see the expression on my face as a child, because I keep telling you who my grandmother is, and you keep telling me, no, I knew your grandmother. Anyway, we went back and forth like that for a minute. She's like, no, your mother's real mother, the one that died. You could have just punched me in the face, and it would have felt a lot better than what that woman did to me that day. I was just completely floored. Wound up calling my grandmother from a payphone. I don't even know where I got change from. Maybe I placed a collect call knowing me, but I called my grandmother. She answered the phone. I'm just going on and on. I just saw Mrs. So-and-so in the hallway, and she told me that she's not my grandmother, blah, blah, blah. Now, you have to understand, number one, I was a kid, maybe 4th, 5th grade at best. I was completely in love with my grandparents, both of them. My grandmother and my grandfather were my everything. I loved them. And if you watched my vlog previously where I talked about my daddy, you understand that my circle was so small when it came to my family until I would literally harm you over them. So it was just really my mom and my grandparents and then myself. That is the extent of our family. My mother is I'm the third generation only child. My mother's the only child. My grandmother's the only child. So our family circle and family structure was very, very small. And this woman just told me that one of the members of that very, very small structure wasn't really a member. And she did it in the middle of church without provocation and without reason. That woman just came over to me and gave me all of our family secrets, or most of our family secrets, because we really didn't keep secrets, just for no reason at all, other than she saw me on probably a Tuesday at church, and I must have been looking too happy for her, and so she needed to tell me what the truth was. Now, I got home, and I can't remember what happened other than my grandmother told me that the woman was crazy, which was true. She was crazy, but she wasn't crazy like that. She was just crazy enough to think that stuff was gonna fly. Eventually, my mother and my grandmother did have a conversation with me to let me know that, yes, my mother's biological mother passed away when she was 6 years old from leukemia, and that my grandmother married my grandfather shortly thereafter and raised her as her own. From that point on, there was no difference in terms of grandmother. When I tell you that woman that is buried in Elmwood Cemetery that helped to raise me and guide me is my grandmother. Biology did not determine that. And I'm so grateful to God for her. And I'm so grateful that the legacy that she left for me. And I'm so grateful that whatever that woman's motivations were in terms of sharing that and giving me that information in the middle of an afternoon and making sure that I knew that, I don't know what her motivation was, but it didn't work because we carried on as if nothing happened. Was it devastating to me to find out? Not necessarily. It was devastating for me to find out in that way. I do think that, probably my grandparents or my mom should have had a conversation with me, and maybe they were going to, and she beat them to the punch. I have no idea. But I do know this. If you know a secret, and if you know something about the dynamics of somebody else's family, it is not your place to go and now share that with the people that are involved. Stay in your own lane. Mind your business. That's not your issue. It's not affecting you. It's not hurting you. It's not your business. And what happens is, especially when children are involved, you cause unnecessary trauma for those children. You cause unnecessary heartbreak and upset for no reason at all. And guess what you get to do? You get to go home and lay down and go to sleep and pretend like you ain't even do nothing, and you leave other people to clean up that mess. And you can wax poetic all day long and talk about how, they should have told them and they should have done this and they should have done that. And maybe that's true, but that's still, ain't none of your business. So it would be really helpful if we just mind our business and stop trying to insinuate ourselves into other people's lives and cause unnecessary havoc and unnecessary pain. And when that woman died, let's just say, I shed no tears. That's just my story time and my commentary. If you know something about somebody, what are we going to do, class? Mind our business. Talk to y'all later. Bye.